Come on in, guys. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about 5 seasons of Survivor that I believe are chronically underrated. These are seasons that are rarely, if ever, ranked in the upper tier of Survivor, but are nonetheless still really good. No heroes versus villains, no Chinas, no Kagayans here. But these are 5 seasons that stand out to me as not getting their due online. They're unfairly raked over the coals, or more commonly, they're just plain forgotten about. So today, let's give some good seasons of Survivor the due they're owed. Today we're counting down 5 seasons that are chronically underrated, underseen, or undervalued in the fan community. The 5th most underrated season of Survivor is Survivor Fiji. This is a season that was not warmly received when it aired, but I think its reputation has warmed with time, but still not to where it should be. Now, yes, I concede the following points. The pre-merge is a slog. We literally don't see the Explorers and Builders Alliance at all, which drove much of the early on-island strategy. And the haves versus have-nots twist was poorly conceived at best, and watching one tribe rise to 1% status and become little islandy Jeff Bezoses and Tim Apples, while the other tribe suffers, just isn't that fun. Hey, I never said these seasons were perfect, just underrated. But outside of that, there's a lot to like about Fiji. The post-merge is genuinely thrilling from the Michelle boot onwards, and the 3 horsemen have one of the most satisfying downfalls ever on Survivor.
Edgardo. That's 3 votes Cassandra. 1 vote Mookie, 1 vote Edgardo.
Then once that's over, you've got successful idol plays, Shakespearean backstabs and double crosses, Boo being clumsy, a genuinely dangerous-seeming Exile Island, and one of Survivor's most well-earned victories by one of its most likable players ever. Plus, seeing Survivor at its most representative, continuing the racial diversity from Cook Islands without that race wars twist, was great. Fiji is super underrated, but I'm glad to see its stock has risen in recent years. If you aren't sold by all that, though, how many other seasons have a dancing competition as a challenge? I rest my case. The 4th most underrated season of Survivor is Survivor Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers. Alright, put the pitchfork down for a second and let me explain myself. Yeah, the Final 4 fire-making twist being thrust upon the players without their knowledge is a bunch of baloney. Chrissy or Devin or Ryan should have won that season, and they should have known that twist was coming from the start if it had to be included at all. However, finale aside, you've got a seriously solid season of Survivor on your hands, and the ending shouldn't retroactively make the rest of the season bad. And the same goes for the reverse. I mean, look at Island of the Idols. That season's finale was one of my favorite in years, but I'm not about to rank that season in my top 10 just because it stuck the landing. Triple H is one of the few seasons in recent years where I really feel like they made an effort to let us get to know almost everyone, especially down the stretch. Even Purple JP I felt like I knew, just by his defining trait of refusing to have an opinion about anything. Well, other than tri-tip salad.
So I just put the wood in the back of my truck. So I just
Tri-tip salad.
Yeah, just pick tri-tip salad up to go. You just sit on the beach, you share, make a fire on the beach, hang out, look at the stars.
Nothing like some wood in the back of a truck.
Sweet first date.
Yeah.
The post-swap and post-merge gameplay was often very exciting, especially before we get to all the Ben bombs. Ben going undercover to gain information from Chrissy and Ryan, only for his majority alliance to consider betraying him as he spies for them, is one of the most thrilling plot lines of the 30s. Triple H has been dragged online pretty hard for an ending a lot of people view as super unfair, and that's reasonable. But before that ending, there's 14 super solid hours of Survivor, and dismissing that like JP dismisses meals without steak in them would be a mistake. At number 3, we have Survivor Exile Island. Like Guatemala, Vanuatu, and other seasons of the post-All-Stars, pre-China era, Exile Island just feels very underseen and very underappreciated. And I can't say that this season is some sort of masterclass in strategy or anything like that, although watching Suri play is always great, and I think generally everyone played a pretty decent game. What really makes Exile stand out for me though is just how hilarious it is. Anytime Courtney or Shane or especially Bobby is on screen, you're going to be laughing. In fact, I'm still mad at Danielle 14 years later for voting out Bobby pre-merge, robbing us of more of the Deuce Man on this season and undoubtedly future seasons, where he returns as America's universal favorite and becomes Survivor's first 5-time winner. That's my headcanon, at least.
Courtney definitely had a right to be upset. I just don't need to hear it. I really don't care what she thinks. She's probably one of the 2 or 3 most annoying people probably in the history of the world.
But even a Bobbyless Kasaya is super funny in their dysfunction. Shane hates Courtney, Courtney hates Shane hates Danielle, Danielle hates Shane, Bruce hates his bowels, and poor Aris and Suri have to wrangle this group of yahoos. This is also the one season with a post-merge pagonging where I actually welcome it, because the Kasaya majority is so much more entertaining than the Lamina minority. Although Terry being a challenge beast and being essentially uneliminatable throws an interesting wrench in the status quo. But if you're gonna have a tribe do a pagonging, Kasaya is the one you want. All in all, a hilarious season front to back, and one that doesn't get its due. I mean, Shane thinks this driftwood is his blackberry, and he's not even the craziest person on this season. The second most underrated season of Survivor is Survivor Vanuatu. This is another season that I believe is underrated mostly because it's gone underseen. Even at the time of airing, it lived in the shadow of All Stars. And following a highly anticipated returnee season isn't easy. Just ask Survivor Nicaragua. Vanuatu was the second season to do the men versus women tribe division, and it gets points out of the gate just for having a whole lot less men ogling women plot lines. That's likely a function of careful casting, with only 2 members of Lepevi being in their 20s. And the tribe just comes off as way less of a boys' club all around. Casting really worked overtime this season, and it paid off in people being ready to play hard and ready to entertain even harder. Within the first few votes, you have a misfit alliance of men coming together, an equivocating swing vote getting turned on by a frustrated tribe, and Jeff wearing the same shirt in not 1, not 2, but 3 different colors. The season does lose steam a bit at the merge when the women have a 6-4 majority over the men and begin decimating them, but that just makes Chris's epic comeback all the more impressive, as he exploits the cracks in their alliance and goes all the way to the end. I also can't not mention Amy, one of the greatest villains in Survivor history, a complex, cold, and controlling player whose only downfall was showing a shred of humanity by choosing not to take out Chris at the family visit. Great cast, surprisingly modern gameplay with tons of twists and turns, and the best ponytail in the game. You can't lose. The most underrated season of Survivor is Survivor Marquesas. Marquesas has been underrated pretty much from the day it aired, and that's a shame. So much stuff that's important to the evolution of the game happens in this season, and it's just wildly entertaining and wonderfully cast to boot. First of all, you get a very youthful Boston Rob, and he plays a very modern game in a very old school season, using his great reads on people to enforce some borderline, no, not borderline, full-blown mafia tactics.
Doesn't matter if my team is stronger physically or even stronger mentally, but just that they obey.
Beyond baby Boston Rob, there are some other great heroes and villains too. V, Sean, and all of post-swap Maraamu are all profoundly likable people, and John and the rest of the Rotu 4 are great villains you love to hate. Speaking of them, you also have an absolutely pivotal moment in the game, the downfall of the Rotu 4, where Nalia and Pascal jump ship from one alliance to another, setting the precedent that even the nicest of human beings could betray an alliance and it wasn't like the end of the world or anything. Seriously, for my money, there's really not a better stretch of Survivor than episodes 5 through 8 of Marquesas. What I love about this season is just how human it feels. It's upbeat and fun, with morning shows and sing-alongs, but it has real elements of darkness too. like the cold as ice Gabriel vote out, or Boston Rob and Sean confronting John at the merge vote. And I haven't even mentioned the literal skeleton Kathy, Pascal, and Nalia find. Hey guys, we found Amelia Earhart. However, even though I stand this season hard, I suppose nothing's perfect. I mean, this is the reunion show.
You know she went pee-pee!
Rosie, can we tone it down a little? Got nothing else for you. To keep me Rosie, like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.